You do that now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's recording, so that's good. And now we're preparing to go live.
Okay.
And I'm going to type it in all over again.
Oh, yeah.
Questions up here. Look, it's like it remembers what I typed last time.
Oh, good. It's just auto-populating. Okay.
Since we're live, okay, let's double check here. Yay. Oh, nope, it's just us. Ha. Oh my gosh. Stop the live stream. Still recording. Try again. Make it public.
We're gonna have the best checklist for people.
Yes.
Yes.
Good idea. I love that idea. Okay. Okay, I'm making it public. Interview with Vanessa. We are going live. It says it's setting us up. And here we go. We are streaming live on Facebook today. Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit late, we were working with some fun technical things.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. This is Vanessa Woodburn, and I want her to just say hello and tell us about her book.
Thank you, Eliza. Yes. Hello, everybody. My book, which you can see the cover there behind me, is called Bounce Back. And the subtitle is Reclaim Your Life After a Concussion. So that really gives you an idea what the book is about.
And why did you write Bounce Back?
Yeah, well, I experienced a concussion about 4.5 years ago. My husband and I were on a cycling vacation in Italy, so that complicated things a little bit. But I experienced a concussion while we were there, and I bet you know people who have had a concussion. It happens to millions of people every year, and most people do get better within, they say, 7 to 10 days with full healing in the brain in about a month. But for about 30% of people, symptoms can linger for weeks and months and even years if there isn't the right kind of treatment. And that was my experience, that about 6 weeks after my concussion happened, I had a physiotherapist who said, okay, you now have what we would call post-concussion syndrome. And I think, people who have had a concussion, we've all heard there can be dizziness and headaches and confusion and memory loss and those kinds of things. But for people, when the symptoms linger, those physical symptoms can linger, but it can also lead to feelings of, you wonder, who am I now? Excuse me, because your brain has been really rattled and it feels like everything's working differently. And there can be feelings of anxiety and overwhelm and fatigue, cognitive fatigue, physical fatigue that goes along with that. So, and I experienced some of those symptoms. And so I really wrote Bounce Back to be a way. I found that I had to work really hard to cobble together, to piece together the people who could help me. My primary care physician, while he was able to do some diagnostic stuff in the beginning, after a couple of weeks, he kind of said, well, you look fine now. So, go home and rest and we'll see how things go. And we know now, I think the science is evolving, thankfully, and I hope that a lot of doctors know more now, but we now know that things like resting and doing nothing and wait and see is not the right approach to take, and that uh, concussions are actually seen as a rehabilitatable injury and they are treatable. And exercise is now actually one of the treatments, for instance, instead of rest, within reason, of course. So
Mm.
yeah, I really wrote the book to help people who found themselves on that journey of having when the symptoms are lingering and they're not sure where to go and who can help them.
Interesting. So there you were in Italy, and my goodness, what a long recovery process that must
Yeah.
have been.
Mhm.
Who is the book for? Who do you want to help?
Yeah. I really wrote the book for people because I know, and as a health coach, I can't diagnose and treat symptoms. And I know that there's a medical community and a rehab community who can do that. And more of them are becoming aware of the latest science and helping people with that. But I still really believe that there's, I call it a gap. I've heard other people call it like the missing link or this period of a letdown when the rehab community kind of says, okay, well, we're going to discharge you now from this concussion management clinic and off you go and get back to life now. And that's where there's this gap where it feels really hard to pick up the pieces of the life that you had. And I experienced that, and it can be a very lonely, isolating place to be when you're feeling still overwhelmed and you know, your nervous system can be kind of all over the place and I wrote the book to so I could really tell people, you know, I see you, I've been there, I know what this feels like, and I walked myself through this process and I learned a lot of things along the way, and I want to be able to help other people get back to that place where they feel calm and capable and confident again to get back to their life.
Hmm, that's so important and so needed. My goodness. Um, what are some tips that you have for businesses that might want to be more welcoming for people who have had brain injuries?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you asked that. Because at the time I wasn't thinking that I could sort of ask for some of these things, but I think it's becoming more and more aware in the community that there are people, whether it's a concussion or other symptoms, where people can help. So, for instance, one of the things that's really challenging for people post concussion or after any kind of brain injury, I'm sure, is grocery shopping. Like it's a task that has to be done, but the all the sensory information in a grocery store, the colors, the sounds, the lights, the music, the people can all be a very, very overwhelming experience. So some of the grocery stores I've seen around here are offering hours during the day. It's usually either earlier or later in the day when there's fewer people in the store, the music is lower or there's no music at all, the lights are turned down. It's just a calmer, quieter situation and time to shop. So I've seen some stores advertise about that. And I think also for people who are running a business in an online space, whether you're, you know, facilitating a group, or I was in a coaching class for something, and there was lots of discussion that everyone was expected, and we were being graded and how we participated in the discussion. And this was about 6 months, 8 months after my concussion. And I had to go to the facilitator and say, can you please let me know about the topics and some of the questions that were going to be asked ahead of time? Because one of my limitations was that I wasn't able to think on the fly. I couldn't hold her question in my head and think about my answer and listen to all the other people and integrate all of that at the same time. And so the facilitator of that class was really helpful. And she gave me some prep material ahead of time. So I think anytime that you're asking people to multitask, especially in an online situation when we don't have those in-person cues,
Mm.
if you can really like take some of the pressure off of that by not asking people to learn material and then perhaps be creating something at the same time, right? That can be helpful.
Interesting. So, did the person respond well and kind of give you what you needed ahead of time?
Yeah, she did. She did. That group for me, that was a good situation. I did, yeah, I had to advocate for myself a little bit there and ask her for what I needed because I wanted to get the most that I could out of that program. And I just knew that, yeah, thinking on the fly created so much anxiety that I kind of froze
I'm just
without
thinking
that.
about, yeah, I'm just thinking about friends of mine who have experienced similar things, not necessarily brain injuries, but other kinds of disabilities. And I don't know how you identify with that word or not, but other kinds of disabilities where that kind of information ahead of time can make all the difference in an involvement in a program, right? Like,
Yeah,
whether it's just providing the materials ahead of time or, getting the information to the interpreters or, like what kinds of questions are going to be asked or what kind of we like just kind of giving that extra accommodation. And I don't know about you, but when I find that businesses are going out of their way to even put that on the front end and say, hey, if you need this extra stuff, like I'm in a program actually where I was so impressed because all the videos have captions, like have transcripts of the video. So
okay.
I'm happy to be able to just go watch that video. And then if I want to go back and watch it again, it's like the transcript is all there. I can fast
Yeah.
forward to the point that I need. And that doesn't have to do with necessarily a disability or an impairment or whatever. It's just like we're busy. It's helpful to have these extra, elements available to us. And that's and honestly, when I see that, it's like I have extra brand loyalty to that because I'm like, that person thought that through, and it might have been for someone who was blind, or it might have been for someone who was deaf, or it might have just been for someone who needed that extra accommodation. And it makes me more likely to want to support that, that brand.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah.
I think I have more respect for those people who are thinking and have an awareness of the differing abilities of everyone who might be coming to them, whether it's as a colleague or someone who's going to purchase from them or just participate in their program. Yeah, I agree.
Totally. So, not to put you on the spot, but I wonder if you wouldn't mind kind of just sharing a gut reaction that you have to that term disability. Do you resonate with it at all?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before, and I mean, at the time that I was in it, I would say that I don't know if I saw myself as a person with a disability. I certainly recognized, and this is where it just might be the language and the words, right? But I certainly knew that there were limitations on me and that weren't there before, and that can be. That's a bit of a twist, right? For someone who's had a brain injury and all of a sudden the limits that are on them now presently that weren't there before can create anxiety kind of as you go. But yeah, I did, having a concussion, I felt like that, my executive function, I know now that that's what it's called. There were limits there in multitasking, decision making, prioritizing, memory, mapping kind of things in my head that definitely affected me for about a year or so until I really felt like I was on top of those things again.
So there's some resonance with that term disability, but you might not go so far as to say like I was temporary disabled, for example.
I haven't thought of it that
Yeah.
way. No.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's typical for lots
Yeah.
of folks, right? Like
Yeah.
that's, it's a term that you kind of, it's like it fits in a box in your mind. And then,
But I know, yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm connected with a lot of people in the concussion community, and I know a lot of them feel that they do have long-term
Mm,
disabilities.
mm,
I think it's unique to each person and their life and their work situation.
totally. So interesting. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Vanessa. And if folks want to follow up with you, what's a good way for them to be in touch and get more information about your book?
Yeah, thank you. It's been my pleasure. I would be happy to offer a free digital download of my book, vanessawoodburn.ca. You can download that from that site. And also the print version of the book is available for pre-order. It's not in stores yet. It's coming out in April, but the audiobook just launched live last week. So that is available. The audiobook version is on Audible as we speak, which is brand new.
Nice, on Audible. That's awesome. So Bounce Back by Vanessa Woodburn, and we'll drop the link in the chat, in the comments there. And yeah, thanks again so much for joining us, Vanessa. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Eliza. Take care.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye. I think we're good.
Oh my goodness. It says it looks good. I see it. It's
Oh,
there.
good. Okay.
So
Okay. It's
and
still
now I have
recording, but it's not live streaming anymore.
yes, it's still recording, so I can stop.